I talk much more about the difference between these phones than just the picture quality. So if you want to skip the section where I talk about usability and hardware, then please just skip along the video a little bit. Before we get into the actual pictures, I want to talk a little bit about usability, because this is something a lot of reviewers tend to leave out because they don't think it's important. But actually, the usability of anything is really important, because it doesn't matter how good it is. If you can't use it, you're not going to get good results. The iPhone 15 Pro is a little bit smaller than the Pixel 6, so it was a little bit easier to handle when out and about. I was easily able to take photos with one hand and even manipulate the camera like this when doing like video. It looks like it's just like spinning all around. So the size makes it really easy to do stuff like that. On the other hand, the Pixel 6 is too big to do this. In a lot of situations, Lena complained that she couldn't reach the actual shutter button with her thumb or finger when she was taking photos, especially compared to how easy she saw me doing it on the iPhone 15 Pro. Now, taking back camera selfies was particularly problematic for her because of the size of the phone. Just being able to hold the phone and getting her hand around it so she could press the volume button to take the picture was a problem. I had some issues as well with the iPhone 15 Pro, mainly because the shutter button, the volume buttons and the power buttons are on the opposite sides of the phone. Quite often I was trying to take a picture and I ended up turning the phone off, which is super annoying, to the point where like I just gave up a lot of times when that happened. That's beneficial. Oh, I keep turning my phone off instead of on. It means I'd have to power it on again, unlock the device, go back to whatever lens I was using before, frame up the picture again, and then take it. Now the screens though, the visibility of the screen, there was a huge difference in visibility of the screen, especially when taking outdoor photos. The iPhone 15 Pro screen is just so bright, it makes framing photos really easily, and you can see exactly what it's going to look like after you've taken it. It's almost as good as using a viewfinder and a camera when you need to take photos on a sunny day when you can't see the LCD screen. Placed right next to each other, the difference is actually kind of shocking. The iPhone 15 Pro screen is so bright.
Mom, baby, this is as bright as
That's max? Okay, well, your phone is a little bit older, maybe technology's... Okay. Now let's finally get into looking at the photos now, for those of you who are still here. The first shot is in the bright outdoors. It's a people shot taken in front of the Belém Tower. Now, this was not taken in direct sunlight because it was a cloudy day, but it's still bright outside. Overall, both photos look pretty nice, but the iPhone has a slight tint to it, reminiscent of, you know, those sunglasses that allegedly make things clearer by increasing the contrast. Some people call them driving glasses and they look kind of yellow. So yeah, the iPhone adding a little bit of a tint. I suppose it knows, you know, people like the Instagram look, the slightly filtered look of pictures, so it's kind of doing that automatically. And to me, this actually makes the iPhone picture look better overall than the Pixel one. Having said that, if you're going for realism and you're not into the Instagram filter look, then you might prefer the Google Pixel photo because it's more reality. It looks more like the scene actually looked on the day. Personally, I like the iPhone picture better because my philosophy is I don't go out trying to take super realistic photos of the world. Like, I'm not documenting the world. I want things to look like, you know, slightly more enhanced, slightly better than they looked in real life. So all those things considered, I prefer the iPhone picture here. Now let's zoom in and check what the details are like on both photos. As soon as I zoom in, the iPhone photos unfortunately completely falls apart. This was surprising because it's broad daylight, but there's noise everywhere, so much so that the hair looks more like a watercolor painting than a photograph. The Pixel 6 isn't amazing either, but it is still better than the iPhone. The situation repeats with this one, taken in the same era. They look pretty much the same. There's virtually no difference to speak about in these photos. Now for the most important type of photos you take on holiday, selfies. Firstly, I have to say, like, I usually take selfies with my back camera anyway, just by holding the phone cameras towards me, like so, and pressing the volume button to take the picture. But to keep things fair, I've used the actual front cameras on both of these phones. So the first example was taken on the metro, and right away you see the iPhone selfie looks much better. There's more sharpness and clarity to the image. The Pixel photo appears to be suffering from motion blur, indicating a shutter speed that was too slow for this situation. Colors on the iPhone are much warmer as well. Selfie 2 was taken in the park outdoors in bright light, and this was the first time that the extra bright screen on the iPhone became a major advantage. Here we see that the two phones are much more equal. Both phones here are really close, but the Pixel is a bit warmer overall and seems to be smoothing out the skin a little. And some people may prefer that, although I'm not one of them. Contrary to what I said earlier about liking slight alterations to the colors of photos to make them look nicer, I don't like altering like actual details like people's skin, for example, because then it just kind of doesn't look like them anymore, and it's also kind of obvious too, and to me it degrades the quality of the image. Selfie 4 is again super close, but both photos look really good, and I'm struggling to pick which one is better here. Even though the Pixel is a bit warmer, this time I kind of prefer the more realistic tones of the iPhone, which also looks a bit sharper and cleaner. Punching in shows nearly exactly the same amount of detail, in case you ever wanted to get that close into a selfie for some reason. In fact, here I prefer the Pixel photo as it's more contrasty, and I think the skin tones are more realistic. It's funny how the phones seem to be swapping processing, because now here the Pixel is looking warmer, whereas before the iPhone was looking warmer. Selfie 5 was taken on Pink Street, so named for obvious reasons. Now here I decided to try the portrait effect on the iPhone, but not on the Pixel. I think the effect looks really cool, but actually if you're on holiday, you kind of want to see where you are, so maybe not such a great idea. Anyway, again, as you can see from the photos, at least from the in focus part, they look very, very similar. When we hit low light again in selfie 6, this time taken in timeout market, the Pixel photo starts to exhibit more noise, and I think the iPhone comes out on top here. Lastly, selfie 7 was taken out in the street, but it is evening at this point and it's also properly raining, so again I would call this low light. For phone cameras with very small sensors, honestly, you don't need it to be very dark for it to be considered low light. And because of this, you can again see that the iPhone is outperforming the Pixel. Now, we're gonna go for some scenery, because obviously when we're on holiday, we take photos of the scenery around us. Scene 1 is just a quick snap of a water feature using the wide-angle lens on both cameras. Now the iPhone captures a lot more with its 13mm lens, and that makes the scene look more dramatic to me. As far as the colours and details are concerned, I think it's a tie when looking at the whole image. Now zoomed in a little, however, the Pixel looks like it's capturing more detail because it uses a 17mm lens. But the lesson to be learnt really is don't zoom in into your wide-angle pictures. Scene 2 is another wide-angle photo, again showing the iPhone is wider, and again these look more or less similar besides that. Now if we zoom in so that the features are the same size on the Pixel is sharper, obviously again because of the slightly narrower lens. Scene 4 includes a person this time, and this time I'm giving a slight edge to the iPhone because of how it raises the shadow just a little bit, making the person have some amount of brightness and color to them. Now, let's go back to the tower for some wide-angle scenes. Both phones have wide-angle lenses, and these are really useful for capturing these breathtaking wide images. Again, zoomed out, both of these pictures look really good, but I do like that the iPhone has brought up the shadows just a little bit. Again, you can see that the iPhone's wider field of view is making for a more dramatic composition than would have been possible with the Pixel 6. Again, here we can see that the Pixel is capturing more reality, and the iPhone is augmenting it a little to make it look a bit better than real. Again, I lean slightly towards the iPhone here, but other people may prefer the Pixel approach. Zooming in, both photos appear to retain exactly the same amount of detail, but to me the iPhone photo looks more contrasty with better shadow detail. These are very close as predicted by the specifications. Scene 7 is another outdoor shot on a rainy day, and here I think the processing by the iPhone results in a much more pleasing photo, even though it probably looked a lot more like the Pixel photo on the day. So we're starting to see a recurring theme here now. Scene 8 is a high contrast scene of some shadows on the lift. To me the iPhone is handling the dynamic range a little bit better by better exposing the sky and lifting the shadows just a little bit. Zooming in, we can see that both photos are capturing just about the same amount of detail. Now, scene 9 is a bit of a creative shot of a beer bottle that I found on the wall next to the train station. The iPhone focused on the bottle while blurring the background, but the Pixel missed the bottle entirely and created the reverse of the effect I wanted. Now let's have a look at this photo on the 25th of April bridge, so named after the Carnation Revolution in 1974. Looking at the entire photo, both photos are great. You can see there's a difference in color tone, but they both look very nice. I wouldn't mind either of these, to be honest. I'd say this is a tie. Zooming in, however, reveals that the iPhone photo is much more detailed. So here, the iPhone photo is clearly better. Now, scene 11 is using the wide-angle lenses now, and definitely this is the lens I would like to use for a shot like this. And both photos come out amazing, capturing the whole bridge as well as where it extends onto the land opposite. Either of these would look great on my Instagram or my Facebook posts. Even zooming in, it's really hard to tell the difference. Remember, these are both 12 megapixel images, so don't zoom into ultra-wides. Now, scene 12 was taken in Parque Eduardo. Even though this one was taken in landscape and the other one in portrait, they are more or less of equal quality. I do find the iPhone colors and shadow processing again a little bit more appealing. As I said, zooming in shows just about the same level of detail. It doesn't really matter at this point that one was taken in a different orientation. Scene 13 again shows a similar level of detail, but again I prefer the iPhone colors. Zoomed in, very similar, just different colors. This has been a general theme of the comparison now. Let me know in the comments below which one you prefer. Now, panorama mode is something I've always praised on an iPhone, way back to when I had my iPhone 5. And the iPhone 15 is no exception. Panoramas are great for capturing those dynamic looking shots when you need to go even wider than your ultra wide. But a major benefit of using the panorama mode is because it stitches together a bunch of stills, your final image will come out at a way higher resolution than even your main camera. So I wouldn't say the ultra wide is redundant because you need it for capturing moving subjects, but a lot of the time I use panorama mode even if I don't have to actually take a panorama. If I just want a higher resolution wide angle image, I would just use the panorama mode. As long as nothing is moving, it's going to come out really good. Both panoramas are great when looking at a whole photo with colors and processing. They look very similar as well. Now, if you wanted to post this to social media, you won't be able to tell any difference. However, if you wanted to zoom in for any reason, either to crop it or to view full screen on your computer, or if you have a giant TV or something, then you'll immediately see how superior the iPhone is when it comes to detail. The Pixel doesn't come anywhere close to the detail coming out of the iPhone panorama. Now, lastly, I want to talk about editing, because not everybody has the time to go home and take files off, edit them, and then upload to social media or print or whatever you want to do. A lot of people just want to do everything on the phone. Now, I have to say the features on the Pixel 6 for editing far surpasses those on the iPhone. For example, look at this photo where this guy was clearly in it and it was raining and we couldn't wait for him to move for the space to be clear. The Pixel was able to edit him out completely, leaving very little residue, meaning you could never even tell he was there. The iPhone does not have this ability, and so you're stuck with whoever was in your photo at the time. And I've seen the Pixel do even more amazing things like this, like remove multiple people. Like, you don't even have to select the people. It will identify the people on its own and remove them. Now, for the conclusion. So, how did my predictions hold up? So, prediction number 1 was that the zoomed in photos will look better on the iPhone than on the Pixel. And this is true. I mean, look at this photo of the bird, which is one of the few that I actually used the zoom lens to take, to be quite honest. The iPhone 15 photo came out much better. I was able to use the 3x optical zoom, while the Pixel had to crop in digitally to its 1x main camera. So on to prediction number 2, photos from the main camera should be pretty much identical. True, there was some slight variations, so sometimes the Pixel will be better and sometimes the iPhone will be better, but overall, on average, these are very equally performing cameras. Prediction number 3 was that the ultra-wides should also have pretty much identical results. And this is true. Photos taken with the ultra-wide were more or less identical. Hey, I'm editing now. I forgot to say that as far as selfie cameras go, the selfie camera on the iPhone 15 is way better than the selfie camera on the Pixel 6, and I think that's because of sensor size and aperture. So let's talk about the pros and the cons. Now, which camera phone is better for you is going to depend on how you shoot and how you like your photos to come out. The biggest advantages on the iPhone are going to be the zoom lens and also the awesome panorama mode. So you get amazing wide angles and amazing narrow angles. To be honest, besides taking a photo of the odd bird, I don't really find telephoto lenses on phones that useful. Now, caveat, when I had my Galaxy S23 Ultra with a 10x zoom, I use that all the time, but I just don't find that a 3x zoom is a lot more useful than a 1x zoom on a phone. The iPhone's panorama mode is extremely good, and if you're into capturing immense landscapes and like vistas, then the iPhone is going to be totally for you. Also, don't forget, as long as your subject is still, you can use panorama mode and get a much higher resolution image, much better quality image than you could using the ultra wide camera on any phone. Now, finally, let's not take for granted the usability factors. The fact that the iPhone was smaller and lighter, has a way brighter display, and how easy it was to get your photos off the phone and onto the computer are really important points to consider. The Pixel's photos are perfectly serviceable, especially with the 1x camera. There's basically no difference between the Pixel 6 photos and the iPhone 15 Pro photos when using the main camera, which, let's be honest, is the one you're going to be using most of the time. The Pixel does have an advantage of having a built-in editor, which is very capable, and if you put some time into editing your photos, say on the flight home, you could end up with some really unique shots that you couldn't have got any other way. Also, we have to talk about the price. Now, the iPhone 15 is still a current model, and you're gonna pay like £1,000 for an iPhone 15 Pro. But you can go on Amazon right now and get a refurbished Pixel 6 for about £200. You could literally buy 5 Pixel 6s for the cost of one iPhone 15 Pro, and you do have to ask yourself if it's worth it. Personally, I don't think it is. So if you have an iPhone 15 Pro already, then good for you. You're going to get slightly better pictures with better panoramas and better zoomed in portraits. If you have a Pixel 6 already, there's absolutely no reason to upgrade just yet. I know a lot of people consider upgrading their phone just before they go on a really good holiday to make sure they get the best pictures possible, but honestly, the difference is so small that it's not worth the extra money. Just spend the money on your holiday instead, or take another holiday with the money you would have spent on a new iPhone. If you really want better photos that badly, take the £1,000, buy yourself a used DSLR or a used mirrorless camera, even with the kit lens, and you'll be taking photos that are many, many, many times better than anything you can get from the iPhone 15 Pro, Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, or any phone on the market right now. And it's not even close. Everything, man. With everything.
But why does yours look so bright?
I think my screen is just
It's
brighter
just bright.
though.
Let me make mine
Do an
brighter.
ultra wide because they'll get more to build. And
Mom, babe, but this is as bright as I
that's max? Okay, well, your phone is a little bit older. Maybe technology's a little bit worse. Ultra wide. There we go.
Got
Wait.
it.
I have to use the big camera as well. Is it on?
Well, now in my camera, not
Now with what? Okay, done.
So Lucy has gone to just an A restaurant, and it's an 8-minute walk from where we are.
Okay.
Whoa.
Are we? Oh yeah, that's scary.
Shall we take the steps instead? Or?
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
watch it. Yeah, I'm surprised that tuk-tuk stopped. Oh, this is still recording. Oops.